Mr. Van Spakovsky, is, based on what I just heard you respond to the Chairman, your view is that Ms. Bosserman, as an employee of the Civil Rights Division, should be removed from the case because of her political activity. Is that correct?
She should be removed because her involvement raises in the public a perception about the integrity of the investigation, and that's one of the regulations at the Justice Department.
But the nature of that taint is that she had partisan political activity of some sort. Is that correct?
Specifically, she supported and gave a large number of donations to the administration, which itself is being accused of wrongdoing in this particular matter.
I understand. Now, when you have some expertise in this field because you served as counsel to the Assistant Attorney General of the Civil Rights Division from 2002 to 2005, is that correct?
That's correct.
And one of the Deputy Assistant Attorney Generals that you worked with was a man named Bradley Schlotzman, is that correct?
That's correct.
He was a political appointee under the Bush administration, is that correct?
That's correct.
Are you familiar with the Department of Justice's Inspector General report on Mr. Schlotzman?
Oh, certainly I'm aware of it.
And that it concluded he violated Federal law and Department policy by considering political affiliations in hiring decisions and other personnel actions such as the assignment of cases for career attorneys. Are you aware of that finding by the Inspector General?
I'm aware of the findings of that report. I wouldn't characterize them quite the way you have.
Well, let me quote. We concluded, meaning the IG, that Schlotzman inappropriately used political and ideological affiliations in managing the assignment of cases to attorneys in the sections of the division he oversaw. According to sections chiefs Flynn, Cutler, and Palmer, Schlotzman placed limitations on the assignment of cases to attorneys whom he described as libs or pinkos, and he requested that important cases be handled by conservative attorneys he had hired instead. Were you aware of those comments by Mr. Schlotzman?
Not all of them, no, I wasn't.
Any of them?
I read the report.
Based on your sworn testimony here today, I would assume that you would conclude those were inappropriate remarks by Mr. Schlotzman, and based on what you just said to Mr. Jordan, you would have reported them as inappropriate and requiring his recusal from making such decisions because they're so blatantly partisan. Or are you not consistent when it comes to a Republican administration?
No, I'm consistent in saying that lawyers who are assigned to specific cases
Could you answer my question, Mr. Van Spakovsky?
I am answering.
No, sir, you are not.
I am
Did you or did you not find those comments?
Mr.
Chairman, I insist on reclaiming my time. I insist on reclaiming my time. We don't have filibusters here in the House, Mr. Van Spakovsky.
He's trying to answer your question.
No, sir.
Ask your
He's
question,
trying to filibuster my question. Did you or did you not report those comments as inappropriate based on what you just said to Mr. Jordan?
There is nothing in the IG report that says that I did anything wrong. In fact, you can
I didn't ask that. I didn't ask that.
You can look through the entire report. I was not accused of making any statements of any kind like that. And
were you asked to be interviewed by the Inspector General?
About any statements like
were you asked to be interviewed by the Inspector General, Mr. Van Spakovsky?
I was, and I
did you agree to it?
I set out and said I would be happy to speak with them if they told me what the questions were and if I was able to review my testimony. They refused to allow that to be done.
So you did not, in fact, allow yourself to be interviewed?
Because they did not afford me the basic due process rights that are given to anyone who's interviewed in a case like that.
Mr. Schlotzman sent you a number of emails, and one of which I'll quote from. If I recall correctly, a certain voting section attorney is a crazy lib. Hans, meaning you, am I right? A detail would be a great way to get him out of our hair for 6 months. Were you aware of that email to you from Mr. Schlotzman?
I recall the email, yes.
Did you think it was appropriate?
Well, appropriate is very different from whether or not a conflict of interest arises over assignment to a particular case. And that has nothing to do with what we're discussing here today.
Well, I'll decide that, Mr. Van Spakovsky. You're a witness. But
tell me, are you aware of the IG report from last year?
Did Mr. Schlotzman not have a conflict, being a political appointee, in determining the assignment of cases based on someone else's perceived political affiliation? crazy lib. Is that a professional epithet at the Department of Justice and the Bush administration?
I'm not going to characterize what the IG has said. The report speaks for itself, and if you want another one, you should look at the IG report from March of last year that talked about the harassment and intimidation of conservative employees that has occurred in this administration, including the fact that an employee within the Civil Rights Division lied and committed perjury.
Mr. Chairman, I didn't ask about that, and the witness is answering questions he was not asked. I will ask, however, Mr. Chairman, without objection, that a letter regarding the possible appointment of Mr. Ben Spakovsky to the FEC opposing that nomination, signed by the chief of the voting section, the deputy chief of the voting section, the senior trial attorney of the voting section, the senior trial attorney of the voting section, the senior trial attorney of the voting section, and the political geographer of the voting section, dated June 11, 2007, and enumerating the reasons why Mr. Ben Spakovsky was not qualified because of his partisan political activities, be entered into the record at this time. I thank the Chair.
Mr. Chairman, could I ask that it be entered into the record the report of the Inspector General from March of last year
We'll get that report and we'll have a committee
about the Civil Rights Division?
We can get that report and have a committee member enter
Mr.
that
Chairman,
into the record.
I have the July 2008 Inspector General report. Happy to put that in the record as well.
Okay. Without objection.